All right, welcome to the podcast. This is Attack of the Clones. My name is Jamie. I'm here with Angel and Julie. Today we're going to talk about The Bad Batch, Season 1, Episode 3, Replacements. Take it away, Julie.
So before we get into replacements, I wanted to bring up something that I said about last episode because a friend of mine really got into it with me. When I was referring to animation styles in hair, and I use Asian hair, Asian animated characters in particular as an example, I wanted to give an in-universe example, which is Ezra in Rebels. At the beginning, when their animation was terrible, he had that blue-black hair, and then towards the end of Rebels, his hair was no longer blue-black, it was actually just black, to kind of show how, when a show starts and the animation is not that great, you can excuse a couple things, but like once the animation gets better, it's no longer excusable. And when Clone Wars was first released in 2008, I was able to excuse the whitewashing between, the obvious, brown people enslaved to the Republic to die, and the animation was not that great, so not everything wasn't as dark. But then, like by season 5, we had Saw Gerrera, his guerrilla fighters. Mace Windu had appeared a few times, so at that point, you can't excuse the whitewashing. So, did you notice that they went ahead and fixed the episodes and now the characters are darker?
I noticed that this episode, they seemed a little bit darker.
Because they said they were going to do it. They went back and fixed the 2 episodes, and now from now on, all the Bad Batch and all the regs, for the most part, are going to appear darker, as well as Saw Gerrera. And they were just, it was, I thought it was noticeable compared to how it was before.
No, I agree.
I don't know if you picked that up, Angel.
No, I definitely agree. They definitely look a lot. Sorry about that. They do look a lot darker for sure. I definitely agree with that. It was a noticeable difference from the earlier episodes for sure. So that's actually pretty interesting, because I don't think that they actually made the rest of the. I don't know if it's just because this episode was a very dark setting. But I don't think that it made the rest of it seem too dark, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? Like the inside of the ship or anything. It didn't, because what you told me last time, I believe you mentioned that they were going to retouch the entire episodes because they couldn't really just single out the skin tone. That would be too sophisticated for the purposes of the animation, specifically this late in the game. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought they were just going to make entire episodes darker, but it turns out you could change the lighting on just the characters.
Oh, well, I mean, you would think so.
That's probably what they did.
That's awesome then, because I thought they actually ended up changing the color of the entire episode to kind of dim it down a little bit. But no, it came out great. I think it looks really good. And I for one, noticed the difference for sure.
So starting off with this episode, Wrecker is no longer just beauty and not brains. He is beauty, he is strength, he's emotional depth, and he's now the only one that's able to, I guess, realize Omega's needs and kind of go along with it, or adjust himself to it. Because at the beginning of the episode, he wasn't really aware, and when Hunter pointed out, hey, Omega doesn't even have her own room, don't steal her food. Afterwards, he was just like, when the ship was going down and she was freaking out, he was like, we're gonna be fine, after his own freak out. And then afterwards, he makes her a little room, and it's the cutest thing. It's adorable. Which brings us to this episode's pun, the Pad Batch, because Omega gets her own pad.
Okay. All right.
Is that acceptable?
All right. I can dig it. Yeah, I'm not the ultimate judge, jury, and executioner here. Right? The audience will decide, but I think it's good.
So replacements is the theme this episode. But at beginning, I thought it was just about Crosshair replacing the new task force, which I still think it's Task Force 99, especially since when they redid the room, they kept the 99 numbers up. There's no confirmation yet, but I'm still convinced it's Task Force 99. But I think it's also the Bad Batch replacing Crosshair with Omega, and not just Crosshair replacing the Bad Batch.
I thought it was just about the capacitor.
Replacing the capacitor.
That's as far as I read into it. Yeah. Sometimes it's just, We got to replace that capacitor.
No, I
man.
did think of you.
It's just, that's as far as I looked into it.
I thought of you when I was seeing that scene about Omega going into the hole and like, I guess fighting off or befriending or coming to a agreement with the Ordo Moondragon, because it was a very Rey scene, if you could recall the last episode.
It was super Rey. It had Rey all over it. I'm telling you, it's like they're trying to. There's nothing in this episode. Now, mind you, obviously, I want to touch on it specifically. I'm glad you brought it up, because there's really nothing in this episode I feel that kind of hints to the Force sensitivity or anything like that with Omega. So I don't know if that angle has not really been, I guess, pushed on further. But they're definitely, at least in my opinion, making you be reminded of Rey in some instances, because that was a super Rise of Skywalker scene there. And it's a Disney thing altogether, you know what I'm saying? We even see it in across a bunch of other properties, you know, a child that interacts with nature and, you know, by not choosing violence comes out on top of it. You know, we see this in a lot of media and whatnot, but I do think that because the last major Star Wars movie we got was The Rise of Skywalker, and, you know, going through a cave, monster inside of it, doesn't end in bloody murder. You know, it at least to me, it definitely took me back to that scene in the movie. And I'm at this point, it's kind of hard for me not to see the subtle Rey references in Omega's character.
Do you know what we're talking about, Jaime?
Yeah, from the Rise of Skywalker, whenever she goes into the cave and heals the giant slug monster thing.
And then all of a sudden the slug monster was like, yeah, we cool.
Yeah, and I honestly, like, I had the exact same thought whenever I watched the episode. I thought, this is that scene. I thought this was going to be the scene, like you said, Angel, where we were going to learn about her Force abilities. As soon as she climbed into the hole, I was like, oh, here we go. She's going to use the Force to like get her little capacitor back. So I was kind of bummed that they didn't go into that, and maybe our theory is wrong, but I'm still holding out hope that it's correct, because I think that would be pretty dope.
Oh, Jamie of Little Faith, our theory is not wrong. I'm still convinced of it. That's a little Force sensitive clone we got there. I'm telling you.
I'm still not convinced that she is.
If I'm horribly wrong, I'll come to terms with it. But you know, yeah, she is. Oh, and excuse me, but it's not a slug monster, okay? It's a snake.
A snake. Okay, a snake just like Crosshair.
It was an intentional choice by Chris Terrio and J.J. Abrams, because the snake is meant to represent healing, and that is what Rey was doing. She was healing the snake, and it's a callback to when she called Kylo Ren a snake in The Last Jedi, and it's all connected. And you just hate Star Wars, Jamie.
I think that's a little on the nose if all of that's true. And there are some nerds who made that movie.
I mean, I made those connections, but I'm a big Star Wars nerd, so
I'm really cool. So you know, I would never have made that connection.
Oh, I'm definitely not cool. I would never make that claim of myself. But yeah, I think Julie's right.
I agree. I do as well.
I've got so much more Omega music.
Oh my goodness.
I love her theme song so
really
much.
Nice. Really, really nice. So tell me,
beautiful.
what other observations did you make?
Back to the replacements. Crosshair's new crew is flying the same exact shuttle type as the Bad Batch. It's another Omicron attack shuttle, as they said earlier in the episode. It was awesome. And they're using the same bunk room, so it's definitely. Do you think the new crew is that like the phase 1 of like Dark Troopers? Because that'd be cool, or the Purge Troopers that they had in Rogue One.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I think that Dark Troopers are so far down the line. That I don't really think they're really going to be touching on that, or at least not planting the seeds for that just yet. The closest thing that we get to a Dark Trooper is the Death Troopers from Rogue One, right? So
yes,
okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I
think you're.
No, I
think it's actually you're right. I think it might be the Purge Troopers, dude.
I think those are Death Troopers.
I think they're the Purge Troopers. It might be like the first look at it, because they have. I mean, they don't look like particularly too different from regular stormtroopers, except that they got that black special forces armor. So I think they might be purge troopers, like those special forces, like the spec ops and stuff. Maybe even what we get in oh my god, no, just that. I don't think there might be death troopers just yet, but because like the death troopers were like pretty, if I'm not mistaken, they're kind of like robotic, right? They're like enhanced.
The Death Troopers?
Yeah. I mean, they make like little weird droid noises, don't they?
Wait, are we talking about the Death Troopers in Mandalorian?
No, in Rogue One. Am I wrong? Am I completely
I
wrong?
thought they cut the scenes out completely. I feel like we were supposed to see a lot of Death Troopers and it got cut out because they redid the Rogue One movie. Do we need to watch Rogue One?
I
again?
mean,
I think we probably need to watch
personally,
Rogue One.
I'm always down to rewatch
It's
Rogue
been
One.
quite some time.
I'm always down to rewatch Rogue One. But I don't think, no, maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe
I know what we're doing tonight. We're watching Rogue One.
maybe it's just, maybe, you know what? I don't know why I had that. I don't know why I thought that. I thought like, oh shit, are they kind of like a little, like a kind of droidy a little bit? Because we never saw, you know, any of them take off their helmets or anything like that. And they were always making like these weird noises. Maybe they just had like this communication thing. I don't know. Never looked too much further into that, but no, there you go.
Yeah, I don't
You don't remember
recall that.
bro, they made weird noises.
I mean, they were also in Rebels, and I've never watched Rebels, so
Okay, here we go.
I know.
They wore black suits. I'm 100%.
fact-checking for us?
I have to. It's bothering me now. They wore black suits of body armor and specialized helmets with vocal scramblers, and that's what it is. Yeah, they had vocal scramblers. Why? Not sure. Maybe they wanted to have them like be reminiscent of Vader on screen, you know? But yeah. It sounds
Just
cool
sounds
as hell.
cooler.
But it made people like me drag their knuckles and think, robot man, you know? So hey, all right, I get it. I do think it stylistically though, it does add to the dehumanization of the droids, you know? Not the droids, of the stormtroopers, because you kind of that's kind of what the Empire does. And I think we still, even in this episode, we still see that push-pull, right? Uniform clones. The Bad Batch are not uniform by design. And then you have the Empire pushing for recruiting people and making them, you know, all fall in line as if they were clones, robbed of all individuality. So it's like this tug of war for individuality versus, defined personality traits.
Oh man, I felt so bad for that one character that just got introduced, one of the specialized soldiers. At the beginning, I was like, oh, we got this white man here now telling us what's what. And then, like, the more he talks, you feel bad for him. Like, you feel for him. I'm like, okay, so, you know, he's kind of a dick, but he's got the right ideas in mind. And then they just off him. So it was kind of like, for me, it was like a really quick transition from like, oh, fuck this guy, to like, oh no, he was the only civilized
Exactly.
one
You're
of the bunch.
just filled with hatred.
I mean, I think the other ones just didn't want to get killed.
Yo, for real though.
Yeah, but it's like,
Cross Eyes looked at him and was like, nah, it's over. You guys follow orders now. You gotta go and kill the civilians. Cross Eyes, you don't play with them, dude. I'm telling you.
I do think we officially hit a point where I don't think it's a redemption arc that's going to end favorably for Crosshair. Especially after he killed the civvies. There's just no coming back from that.
They're bringing back Cross Eyes. If there's one thing I know about Star Wars, they bring them back. Doesn't matter how many children they kill. Everybody gets redeemed.
The composers for Bad Batch has gone on and said that it's going to be a very emotional ending, which I guess,
Damn.
it's not
I
something
guess
that
not,
either
though.
of us, or none of us was not expecting. But there's something to keep in mind. It's going to be a horrific
Boy.
ending.
It's gonna be sad.
They're the same ones that did the ending when the Venator was crashing, where Ahsoka and Rex were on it.
That was a
They composed all of that
beautiful
as well.
ending. That was such a good wrap up for that
Mhm.
series. It was just awesome. It felt like a movie. It didn't feel like a TV series at all. It felt very
Yeah, it
cinematic.
did.
And there's still scenes in this series that, you know, it consistently does have a cinematic feel to it. Especially when they're in space. I feel like any scene of like the ship,
Oh,
like
yeah.
the ships flying through space, it's like how, it almost doesn't look animated because it just looks really, really good.
I definitely do think the animators that are working on this have perfected their craft in every way possible. I don't know if you noticed, but the what are those things called? The respirators that they were using on the moon, you could see their breathing.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
It was so awesome. It's like, where the hell were your helmets at? Why aren't you using your helmets? But at the same time, that's kind of cool. I guess so Omega wouldn't be the only one out without a helmet. Or I guess you lose a lot of expression when their characters are wearing a helmet.
I think that it's intentional. Yeah, for sure. Because remember, it's like with the stormtrooper situation, right? The stormtroopers are like when they have these helmets on, you can't really tell who's who. It doesn't matter. They're just like this endless drone of a villain that they're up against. So, we see rebels' faces. Rebels have their faces exposed for the most part, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like this push and pull between individuality and conformity that's forced upon you by a greater power, right? And I think moving forward we might see less and less of the Bad Batch actually wearing their helmets.
I agree, and we also saw in the last episode Crosshair not wearing his helmet, and then in this episode with his whole crew, him and his whole crew were wearing their helmets the whole time they were on their mission.
Until he took it off and he's sitting all like sad as fuck on his little bunk bed. Oh. And then they cut to Omega and like the happy little family and her like hugging Lula in her pad.
Yeah.
It was such like a it's very poetic ending. This episode was very poetic. I loved it so much.
That was a really strong cut too. Like usually in a lot of these Star Wars shows, they do their little wipes, and I know people love that, and they have all these like their transitions are not the strongest, but they are reminiscent usually of the original Star Wars trilogy, and that's why they do them. But like that cut hit me really hard just because it was such a well placed.
Yeah, it was jarring.
Cut, yeah.
It's a really strong juxtaposition there. I thought it was good. It was really good. I think the episodes really to just riff a little bit on the replacements theme. I think that it definitely paralleled each other. So you mentioned how the ships are they like the same model, same kind of class? Because
if I'm not mistaken, they're the same model. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're the same. Like I saw it. It's a quick scene where he's like flying through the air, or I guess the group is flying in that ship, and I was like, "There's no fucking way it's not the same thing. Mm-hmm. It has to be."
Okay. Well, it's definitely showing us a parallel. It's a parallel situation for what we're seeing. We're seeing the Bad Batch slowly but surely doubling down on their sense of individuality, how they're different. We're seeing them become more and more, I guess what would eventually be rebel freedom fighters, right? They haven't quite gotten there yet because they're still going about their adventure of the week arc, and they're learning to be dads to Omega. Yeah, they are. It's pretty, that's pretty endearing. But and we see the parallel with what's going on with the Empire. We're seeing that parallel between these two because I believe it's the same number of crew members, except, well, not by the end of it, but it was the same number of crew members. It was 5 and 5, yeah.
Other than Echo.
So you had, yeah,
was it?
5
yeah,
and 5.
It was 5 and 5.
And instead of, but thankfully Hunter didn't blast Omega in the face with a gun, so that thankfully that didn't happen. But yeah, it was like we're seeing that parallel, and while we're seeing the Bad Batch sort of ascend, if you will, in terms of coming into their own and finding the new identities and learning to interact with people outside of just warfare, we're seeing Crosshair descend further down that rabbit hole of the dark and sinister Empire. That's how I kind of took it. Oh, super sad. Because think about it, it's not like he has the inhibitor chip, right? But I don't think that actually like affects his memories. So he probably has memories of not
forced to do things he doesn't want to do.
He's fully aware that he doesn't want to do any of this stuff. He's just forced to do it. and he has no control over himself. So it's like he's trapped in this body that won't listen to him in a sense, right? His emotions are probably like,
Oh,
yeah.
I
I
didn't
mean,
think
I
of that.
think there's some capacity, or rather, when they flip the switch off, maybe it'll all come back to him, and he'll feel differently about it. But right now, his emotions are like, no, comply, follow orders.
That makes his saying of "good soldiers follow orders" so much more sad
maybe
to
even a
think
little
about.
painful to hear.
Yeah, thinking about it like that. Oof.
His buddies miss him. Oh, Wrecker's the only one who's wanted to admit it out loud.
I feel like, like he's the mouthpiece for the themes. He's like they see the
He's a
guns,
big dumb
they
baby that
see
can't
the
keep his
guns,
mouth
and they're
shut.
like, and he's like the director saying, "This is meant to symbolize they miss him. I miss him." You know what I mean? So that's kind of what he is. He's like,
I thought that was Tech. I thought Tech was
I guess
pointing out the
this week
obvious
it was
guy,
it was Smasher. You know, it was his job this week to be the mouthpiece for the theme. You know, speaking of the Empire, Governor Tarkin, make a decision, my guy. It's not that hard. You either like, are you guys? They're really like teasing us, like, we're gonna stop using clones. You know what I mean? Like my guy, how did you become a governor not
To
making
me-
decisions fast enough? I feel like he's got enough data in front of him. You know what I mean?
an admiral. Is he a
Well,
governor
he was
still?
called
I thought he was
governor, but
admiral.
They called him governor.
The other
That
okay.
other guy,
So
forgot his name.
speaking of
Mhm.
admiral, Rampart is like a newly graduate from university that just got his first big boy job and is trying to prove himself by overworking and like coming up with all these plans that might not work out in the end. Like, we all hate that guy, and that's
Yeah,
what he is.
he's got try hard energy.
Even when like one of his soldiers dies, he's just like, nope, it worked out. I think.
he's a real try hard. I think it's definitely. I'm really looking forward to how that's going to be playing out. Specifically, that angle, the Empire, because I'm still really hoping for that Kaminoan uprising, the clone uprising. I'm really hoping that they go that route.
I was thinking about that. What if the Kaminoans used the inhibitor chip to turn the clones on the Empire?
That's 100% how they'll do it. I'm convinced. I think you're dead on
Yeah.
about that for sure.
And that's how we kind of like eliminate the clones from canon at that point.
Yep, exactly. And that's also how they would I just had a realization. What if they do that and as a result force Cross Eyes to turn on the Empire? Redemption arc. Boom. That's it. It's canon. I spoiled the season
You heard
for
it
you
here
guys.
first.
I'm sorry. He's gonna die anyway because they're probably gonna kill him all off. But that's how I think is gonna happen now. I'm convinced. Oh my goodness.
They're gonna
I
kill him
came
off
up
and
with
he's
that.
gonna come back in
all
a
by
new
myself.
series with like robotic parts.
Yeah, for sure, dude. That's what they're gonna do. Everybody comes back. No one's ever really gone. Oh, Luke.
And that's maybe Cross Eyes is the one that ends up killing Rampart, and that's why you don't get Rampart anywhere else. That'd be some shit.
Maybe.
like that.
Well, you know, they could still use Rampart in something else, but I personally, I don't like his face, so I'm totally fine with him getting murdered.
Or
in
his
this season.
voice.
Well, you know whose voices kind of bothered me? The crew, the Cross Eyes' crew. They're like,
It's only because it's one guy.
man. It was like no, his
Yeah.
not the
The
individual.
voice actors for all the clones is the same guy.
No,
Yes.
no, right. Him, yeah. No, I mean Cross Eyes' crew.
Oh,
The
new crew.
Imperials.
Okay.
Yeah, those guys. They said, man, they sounded like they just like got people at Walmart to just record this. Like, hey, just the most average, regular people
It's
that
only
don't
two
have
of them that
any
speak,
involvement.
though.
Yeah, they spoke and they're just like, this is my motivation as a character, and I
Oh, yeah.
don't like the Republic. You know what I'm saying?
The white
I don't-
character, the
they
white
kind of
guy.
felt a little robotic. I don't think that's intentional
Yeah.
on their behalf.
Like, maybe
I
that's
think
why
it's-
I instantly hated him as soon as he opened his mouth.
Yeah, he sounded super generic. I'm like, man, put some like sauce on it, dude. What are you doing? You're speaking for Star Wars here. What's going on? Voice roll, baby.
No
Come
spices on that one.
on. Nope. Hey, that means something else in Star Wars. We gotta Gotta be careful with that.
Oh, well, I
You're
mean,
just throwing out
spice makes
accusations.
everything
What?
better.
Suddenly, no. He's in the Empire. He does not consume any of that. He's an upstanding citizen.
Are spices drugs in the Star Wars universe?
Yes.
Boom.
I had no idea.
Sudden realization. Yeah, dude. That's what a spice runner is.
It's like they're cocaine.
I legit just always thought it was like
It may.
Well,
this
don't
is
feel too
embarrassing,
bad.
but I just always
Don't feel too bad though.
I just
get
assumed
it.
their food needed a lot of spices because like they have so many different types of
Species, and they all need
space
it.
food, and they're like, we gotta have our salt.
The white guy
Aw.
only wants salt. Like Jaime.
Well, hey, okay, but listen. To be fair, a lot of conflicts happened over spices in human history. They were very valuable, specifically salt. Salt was not always readily accessible. Before we learned how to, take it out of the ocean, salt was
See?
definitely a very, very valuable. So
He's like wagging his finger at me.
wag it harder. I gotta support my boy here. She's gunning for you. Bad enough you thought
Well,
it
now
was.
I know.
They were just regular spices.
Now I know about the drug thing. So
Exactly. Han Solo was on bad terms with the Republic because he was smuggling Badia.
oh my.
Sorry, I thought that was probably. That's pretty funny. Okay. Hi, Badia. Anyways, the Kaminoans. So, you know how I mentioned I think Boba Fett's going to show up?
Yeah.
I don't know if you recall this, but I
Yeah.
mentioned it last time. But anyways,
I
the
think I know what you're gonna
Kaminoans
talk
need a
about,
direct
yeah.
source. They don't have
Mhm.
Jango Fett
Yep.
anymore, who is an exact replica other than Boba, which would make him saving Fennec in The Mandalorian make much more sense than just like this random bitch he found dying in the sand.
Mhm.
Especially since we're getting Fennec. So if they were to meet at some point, like in the past, yeah, connecting the dots.
I think
This is
so.
my post-it note
you-
thing that happened in the
You're good.
office.
No, I think I think that's a good point because I thought the same thing. Ever since you were talking about how they could work in Boba Fett, they mentioned that them needing a direct source. It makes sense. I think we're gonna get some Boba, little Boba.
Either that, or that's their segue of getting Omega back, and maybe her purpose is to be a gene archive or something of that sort. Genetic archive.
Oh, that would be so sad if all she was a genetic archive. But that would make sense. But that'd be
I mean,
so
she's
sad.
just property to the Kaminoans, so
Yeah.
even though Namase has obvious feelings for her, if not, he wouldn't not have let her escape the way she did.
Right.
That's true. I mean, Omega was the only clone that had a Kaminoan thing on her face.
She
No
was
one else
baby.
had that.
She
Yeah.
is baby.
Absolutely.
It's because her voice is so adorable. You can't just like send her off to the barracks. You gotta like hold her.
Oh, she's a little Aussie. She's a little Aussie. We got to take care of her. So is Jango Fett from Space Australia?
He's from
Or
Concord
Space
Dawn,
New
which would
Zealand?
be Space Australia.
Concord Dawn is Space Australia confirmed? All right.
Well, we're confirming it here.
I don't know if I can fully confirm it, but that's what I'm going with for at least the time being. No doubt about that.
Well, I mean, Concord Dawn is a shattered world, and guess what else is falling apart by like fire and famine and other things? Australia.
That's true.
But
Those
not of
people-
COVID-19 because they got that shit under control down there.
Dude, those people are just absolutely impeccably, like, they are just phenomenal at surviving, the Australians.
Especially with all those predators.
Australians exist in spite of Australia. You know what I mean? It's wild. How one continent can be so violent. It's insane. But hey,
And then you got
Props
New
to them,
Zealand
huh?
right under them, and they have no natural predators down there.
that's what I'm saying. Like, well, how did one, they're like right there. How did they luck out? Whatever. I guess they all shipped them off to Australia. Don't make sense to
That's
me.
literally what happened.
Well, prisoners
It's like criminals
were
off
shipped
to Australia,
there.
so I guess they
Yeah,
sent the
but
predators
what,
too.
They sent the dangerous animals to Australia too. Just take them over to the prison. Yeah, prison island. No big deal. We'll take them over there. Man, that's a dark origin story for New Zealand. Why would they ship off all their dangerous animals to Australia? This is, by the way, 100% historically accurate. You can take it to the bank.
I was thinking that like Omega's purpose, since we haven't been able to figure out, is just for her to crawl into small spaces that the rest of the batch can't reach, because that's literally what she did again.
Yeah.
And like the prison break scene, she got into that the wall, and in this one she's climbed to the hole after the dragon. So her purpose confirmed. Small spaces.
I think it was very nice that Omega got Lula, Smasher's little doll.
Oh, it's so I'm gonna be so upset if
her,
Disney does not release a Lula doll.
Dude,
because I want one so badly.
Oh, of course they are. They're
I
gonna release
one.
so many.
I want one more
Lula
than I
dolls.
want any Grogu.
They're gonna release so many. You take that back, but they're gonna release so many of them. It's how it is. It's just one of those things about Star Wars. You
It's
just
all
know
in the
they're
ears.
gonna drop it.
Ugh.
And people complain about Star Wars merchandising too much, but it's not like I don't see something in Star Wars and immediately want to buy something. Like, oh yes, I want that thing. How do I buy that thing? You just immediately Google it. Even if you don't actually buy it, you still Google it to check if they make the product of it. It's just the thing.
Predictions for next episode. I have one or two. I don't know about you.
Let's hear yours first.
Yeah, let's hear yours.
Well, I'm gonna barrel on right ahead. The ship needs repairs, so this is that scene where they're talking to the Trandoshan woman that's like, well, if you want work, I got some work for you. So that's how they take on the bounty hunting for funds to repair the ship. And then while on one of their missions, they're going to meet Fennec Shand. And that is where I think this is going. Not big predictions, but logical ones, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good place to move to the next episode.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of blew it early thinking that Fennec Shand was going to pop up in this one.
And Omega's going to crawl into an air duct.
Probably. Or she's just going to like... it's moments like that make you remember. Yeah, this is for the kiddos for sure. They always give them the lion's share of it. Omega's the one that gets the capacitor back. She's the one that goes into the cave. Even though logically, why would you
so
bring the little girl out there to the world with these vicious animals that are going to murder her without armor?
She wanted to be there. That's why.
And that's
because
exactly.
The Bad Batch can't say no to her.
They can't say no to her, but I also think it's because they haven't quite fully, gone full dad mode just yet. They're still putting the kid in danger. They're dangling Omega off a balcony like Michael Jackson. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like that. They're like, oh, whoops. All right, let's not do that again. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of how it is right now. But she's gonna be our little hero. I'm looking forward to seeing how Omega progresses for sure.
Her force powers manifest.
I'm waiting for the moment. They're gonna manifest probably with her having to defend someone. That's what I'm thinking.
Something happens to Hunter and she has to come save it, and she's gonna lift some rocks, and it's gonna be a really cinematic moment with light flares.
Yeah, and then
everywhere.
Finn's gonna come out of the cave and give her a hug. Everyone's gonna be confused.
Oh,
the timeline
poor Finn,
is
they
broken.
did him wrong.
Hey, you know who did him wrong?
Maybe parallel universe where Finn is now the Jedi.
It was JJ. They gave what they did. If they weren't gonna make Finn the focus of the sequel trilogy, they shouldn't have prepared him. Like he was a red herring in The Force Awakens, but they gave us so much Finn, and Boyega's just like so insanely lovable. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That it's just like, oh, it's just like, yeah, this is a guy that I want to see forever now for the rest of it. And if it wasn't part of their game plan to make him the main dude, they should have toned it down a little more in terms of like the red herring aspect of it. Give him a little less screen time in the first one, because he kind of just was a misdirect.
Yeah, he was.
And speaking of misdirects, do you think we have any misdirects going on right now in the Bad Batch? Any of these characters misdirects? I always got an eye out for that.
I think the inhibitor chip is actually going to activate on Wrecker, because when he hit his head, he kept complaining about the pain, and the spot that he was holding was the same spot where Rex had like the bandage, and the same spot that Fives had the bandage where the inhibitor chip came out. So, plot twist. That's what I think is going to happen.
Are you in my head? That's exactly what I thought. He was
really?
complaining. He was complaining way too much about his head. And as soon as I mean, come on, bro, you're a clone. We have the inhibitor chips. You're complaining about your head. You didn't hit your head that much. You got shot in the face like 3 times, and you brushed it off. Suddenly, you got a really bad headache because of one little crash landing, homie. Exactly. Like he's just, oh yeah, that hurt. Woo! And then now suddenly it's like, oh my head, oh it doesn't stop hurting. You know, it's like, all right, well, what's going on?
I think you've got Wrecker's voice down pat. Like that is the hands down your best voice so far.
Oh, fantastic! I'm glad I got something going. I'll work on the other ones, I guess, but I'm no voice actor yet. But yeah, that's what I think. I think that's the inhibitor chip coming into play there. I think maybe we might actually get some of that play going down, and I really do hope that this turns into that clone uprising, the Kaminoan uprising thing, because I really think that the flipping of the inhibitor switches, inhibitor chips in the clones is a phenomenal way to make Crosshair turn on the Empire. I mean, it would be so awesome. I feel like if they don't do it, it's gonna suck a little bit. But I also feel like if that is what they do, then like, damn, we spoiled it. But you know, I think it's a great way to do it.
If this is what happens, then there needs to be an introduction of another Jedi, or it has to be after we figure out that Omega is force sensitive to make it like really impactful.
Yeah, they're giving us a lot of attention on Omega. Obviously, I feel like she's like the main character, I guess, that we're following.
I feel like she's gonna be in big trouble, then Gonki's gonna come save the day.
The Gonk droid.
Did you know they named the Gonk trooper the Gonk droid? His name is Gonki.
No, wait, that's its name?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so Star Wars Online is doing like a text trivia behind the scenes facts, and the Gonk droid is Gonki.
Oh my god, I love him. I love Gonki. Oh, Gonki.
And him being used as a dumbbell is canon, too.
Well, there it is. You heard it here first, folks. Gonki versus Tarkin showdown. It's all leading up to that moment.
What's going to happen is Wrecker's inhibitor chip is going to activate, and then Gonki's going to, like, lay him out, kind of like revenge.
Dude, it's such a dope idea if their inhibitor chips might, activate. Maybe it just took to
imagine
took a
Hunter
bit
is
more time
activating
or
against
like
Omega.
That. Oh, no good. I mean, why would he kill her unless he's ordered to? Oh no! Oh, dude, imagine!
Force sensitive.
Oh my God! Can you imagine?
You must kill all Jedi.
Yo! Oh my goodness! Please go in this direction, please.
So,
I'm calling Lucasfilm.
I have another theory that just popped up.
Yeah.
I have just started playing. I haven't finished.
Fallen Order.
Yeah, so I guess it doesn't matter. You've played it. Do you see what happened to Seer and Trilla, like how she gets captured?
Yeah.
Because we know we're going to Braca.
True.
So maybe something with Gerald DePaul or Cal, or maybe Trilla and Seer in the series that would like tie in all the medias again.
Yeah.
Probably not.
I don't know. I don't think I as we progress with this, I really don't think they're gonna really touch Fallen Order's story outside of the video game unless they decide not to make another one. But
in one of the trailers, they show the 13th Battalion, which is Gerald DePaul's battalion, the battalion that was with Cal Kestis Masters. So we are getting the 13th Battalion somehow.
Okay, so in some capacity, they will be touching on it then. Okay, so that's.
Yeah.
Hey,
it has to be.
It could come into play. It could come into play. If we get Cal Kestis outside of Fallen Order games, I'm all for it. I loved Cal's character. I love that crew in that game. I definitely want to see more of that Night Sister character. Unfortunately, the name escapes me, but I'm all for it. Marin, there we go, Marin. Oh, dude, I'm telling you, I want it. Give it to me now. Take my money, however it needs to be given to me.
I feel like they can't do much because the second game's in production, but they can play in the before times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they can't really touch on it. I mean, what is there really to learn from the before times of Cal? I mean, outside of like, him having an adult voice in a child's body, which seems to be the MO.
Didn't the guy voice like 8-year-old Padawan Cal just fine in the flashback/training sequences? That might not be such a adult man in small body.
Hey kid, what's your name? Cal Kestis. You know Caleb? Caleb stole my toy.
Ay, Dios mío.
Oh man. So, Jamie, you got any thoughts moving forward?
No, I mean, I think we've covered a lot of the stuff that I had.
It was a little fillery this episode.
It was, but it was like I think it did a good job of again like solidifying Wrecker as like somebody who's gonna care a lot more about it. Like I thought it focused in on him starting to be more of a dad, like part of the Dad Batch, you know.
True.
You know, I still think we need a little bit more from. So we've got Hunter and Wrecker are feeling more like the dads, you know, and then the rest of them still they'll have
no fuck.
Yeah, Tech doesn't care at all.
Echo just is angry
yeah.
he's still alive without Rex.
Yeah, if Omega
This was the only time we saw him like really alive.
Yeah, if Omega was half machine, Tech would probably care a little more, but he only wants to be a dad.
Was
to
she
Echo.
using? So speaking of Tech and Omega, was she using his scanner in that opening sequence? Because he was working on something else, and for once not having his own like little data pad in front of him. Was she using his data pad when she was laying against Gonki?
I believe that yes, she stole his iPad. I think that's what she was on. She was playing
playing Candy
Roblox on the
Crush.
side there.
So he had no choice but to work on his like side craft.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you know. She's which you know what? It's one of those little things for anybody who's a little older, that may be listening into this podcast. What an interesting and yet super intuitive way to relate kids to Omega that much more. The fact that they love tablets, they love playing on tablets, and just being like thrown on the couch or on the bed or something, just vibing, playing on their tablets. And then we have a literal visual of Omega doing just that, even though obviously she was leaning on a giant metal gonk droid, but probably not as comfortable. But you know, it's a nice touch. It's a nice touch. I think that's.
I
it's
feel like
really
kids are
creative
comfortable
touches
everywhere.
That's true. That's true.
Like,
they
they're
do
squishy.
get comfy.
She would have been fine.
Yeah, she looked like she was just chilling. She was just vibing there. But I think they're doing a good job. I think they're doing a great job with Omega. Omega is like super kid. You know what I'm saying? She doesn't feel too unrealistic. She doesn't feel like one of those kids that's just insanely wise and way more knowledgeable than they should be at that age. I think Omega is just very much a kid.
The average kid, I would
in
say.
a great way, yeah. Mm-hmm. And
Like
the
everything
Dad
she's
Batch,
done, or she hasn't done anything outlandish yet that a child watching can't imagine themselves doing.
Mm-hmm. Getting herself into trouble, meddling with the affairs of the adults, you know, typical stuff, but being a nice little sweetheart. I think they're doing a great job with Omega. I look forward to seeing how they develop her character. I already know she's going to be force sensitive, and she's going to be the one to take down Darth Sidious. We already know this is how it's going to turn out. This is canon.
Want to see that Palpy claps? We still got like
Palpy claps, man. I'm telling you, even if Omega's not the one, I know Palpy claps.
13 more episodes to find out.
I'm telling you, dude, I really do think that there is this force sensitive thing that they might be going on with Omega, because it's like okay, Palpatine always had contingencies for pretty much everything, right? He always planned things out in a way where he can come out on top, and he has like and he does it by hiding in plain sight, right? So he becomes the Chancellor. I mean, it's not like he's working directly from the shadows. He is, but he's probably the most public figure in the entire galaxy, right? He's literally doing that, hiding in plain sight. So how else would you? It would make sense that he would work on like his other plans and stuff like that in ways where they're hiding in plain sight. And Omega
He's gonna be working on
being-
building that fleet right now. For that
Which one?
scene.
Which
in
oh,
episode 9.
For episode 9? I actually know how they do that
Yeah, that
canonically.
comes out of
and it's like,
nowhere.
yeah, well, you know what? I read about it in the Disney expanded universe, and it's like really interesting stuff. But it kind of sucks that we never got it, and even like really talked about it in the movies. I guess because they crammed so much into them. But it's really interesting how they do it. They pretty much just had like a lot of like factions, and corporations pumping money into this operation, and the First Order was being used for that end as well. So the First Order was unknowingly a pawn for this. The same corporations that were supplying the First Order were supplying Palpatine's Final Order. They were smuggling supplies to Exegol. They were sending them schematics, resources, all of that. And they were field testing it all out with the First Order specifically. So it's really interesting stuff, but we never got it in the movie. So it kind of sucks that most people don't know that, It's kind of lame. I hope they definitely, do a lot of patchwork on that sequel trilogy.
I just hope they don't Knights of Ren this new Task Force 99, because that would suck.
Oh, girl, come on. You know this is Star Wars. The cooler you look, the less your character does in the movie. Boba Fett didn't do a damn thing in the movies.
I mean, he fell in a hole. Pretty cool.
He fell. Bro, come on, man. Boba Fett, for the majority of my life, Boba Fett died in a sand vagina. All right? He fell in a sand pussy because a blind guy.
Coochie.
Exactly, because he fell in the sand coochie because a blind guy hit him in the back. That's your space badass. That's your super space ultimate warrior. Come on, man. And then he just crawls out of the sand coochie in a comic book. I'm not gonna read that comic book. In the movie, he didn't do a damn thing.
There's too much discharge, so that's why he looks the way he does. I get it.
I'm an American. You think I'm gonna read, son? What do you think this is? If it didn't happen in the movie, it didn't happen. I'm just glad that we got some Boba Fett action in The Mandalorian, because that was badass.
So glad Tamora Morrison is back. And
oh yeah, for sure.
God, I hope we get Boba Fett in this season or this series.
It would be very, very nice. I love the connective tissue that the Bad Batch is hinting at right now. Because that period, like I've said it before, say it again, that period between episodes 3 and 4 is super, super interesting, to where we see this empire rise and form. I think it's really fascinating stuff.
Right? I think that's pretty much it for this week's episode. We're calling the Bad Batch a wrap.
That's right. Get your Lula and go to bed, because this one's a wrap.